I would like to bring up Moe Fishman, the Secretary of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade.
Bravo!
I represent the Veterans of Lincoln Brigade, and our war was 1936 to 39. That's almost, it is 3/4 of a century ago. And there is much that we have learned in all of that time, and a small part of it I just want to impart to you. When my friend Mr. Velasquez here was talking about the kind of war and patriotism, it reminded me of something. And that something is the fact that there is such a concept as a just war. There is such a concept of being so imbued in our history with patriotism that the minute a government says to go to war, our automatic reaction, I'm talking about the mass of the American people, is to go to war. And something different happened to that psyche during the Vietnam War. For the first time, an organization was established, the Vietnam Veterans Against War. It challenged that concept of patriotism. It brought into being the idea that we veterans have professed for these many years. It is not my country, right or wrong. It is a greater patriotism. My country to support when it's right, and my country to put right when it is wrong.
That's right.
And it is that concept that is embodied in the very name, Veterans Against the War. Dave tells me that he gets innumerable requests to speak on college campuses and from this group and the other. We, Veterans of the Lincoln Brigade, still get that call from many people who know nothing about that war, and for some reason a teacher, a professor, somebody in a Spanish class, and they call up the Veterans of the Lincoln Brigade and we get a chance to speak. But the minute that they just ask the Veterans Against the War to have a speaker, that concept comes into being. This was a case where the concept of not my country right or wrong, but my country to make right when it is wrong, goes into play automatically. And I may mention all of this to make the point that there is something new and unusual that has come about the scene with the coalition of veterans that called this meeting. It began with actions on the part of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War going to Vieques to support the Vieques people in their just action to get the goddamn U.S. Navy out of Vieques. Chairman Gideon Rosenbluth were two of the people who joined Mr. Velasquez in going to Vieques and challenged the government and ready to lay their bodies on the line. They were ready to be arrested in order to support this major concept of the United States government was wrong and we are right. Well, out of that Vieques coalition, and we, the Veterans Lincoln Brigade, supported them, we marched alongside them in the two marches that were held in New York City, came another thought when we found out that Dave Klein here, our chairman, had been elected the president of the Veterans for Peace national organization, of which he is also a member. And he is one of the chief coordinators of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War of the New York area, and he also serves on the national board of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. And it dawned upon the collective group that was meeting there at the time that here we had a powerful tool. That if we united in a committee that consisted of these veterans and could get more veterans to join us, we had a powerful voice. It isn't just the numbers that are involved. It was the idea of veterans organizations combining together to pronounce that we are against the war in Iraq and for constitutional rights in the United States. Thank you. But I put it to you, even we didn't really appreciate the power of that joint union. Let's remember, you wouldn't all be here if, and what was the first thing we did? We joined together to march to Central Park on October 6th. No, we didn't. When did we march?
April 20th.
April 20th, after the...
October 7th, October 9th, 2001.
Right, after the attack on the World Trade Center, when everybody seemed to be focused on the ideas that Bush was projecting of a war in Afghanistan, and the idea that he had gotten permission, like the Tonkin Resolution, to go to war any place he pleased, that this was the kind of a resolution that was proposed in Congress, and I put it to you, a hell of a lot of our Congress voted for it at that time. And we marched together in New York City opposing that kind of power being given to the president. And then when we realized that here was this war on Iraq that was being promulgated, we got together and we marched together up Fifth Avenue into Central Park, where 15,000 people, I would remind you, gathered on short notice under not too broad an umbrella, but the one concept was not in our name. And that was a magnificent expression on the part of New Yorkers, and they represented hundreds, millions in the United States. And it was in May of this year, June of this year, that at our collective meeting, we decided, well, let's have a meeting in New York, just the veterans. And it was greeted enthusiastically. At first we set a date in September, and it didn't seem practical, and finally in September we set this date for having the meeting. There were some of us that had trepidations about how many people we could turn out for such a thing. But I put it to you, just look around you. The idea of a group of veterans meeting and being together with the potential of now reaching out, and I see it as reaching out to mainstream veterans, of reaching the Jewish war veterans, the American Legion, and the, of foreign wars. I'm serious about that. We veterans have a powerful hold on the thoughts and minds of our fellow Americans. And I put it to you again. I've attended peace meetings galore in my lifetime and recently. And yet, it is not easy to get ABC, CBS, and not NYU, National Broadcasting Company. They were all here with their cameras. Were they here because they knew that all of you, the 150 to 200 of us here were coming? Would that have brought them out here? No. It was the idea of a united group of veterans opposing the war. That concept brought them out here. So let's all remember that that concept is something that, and that concept has to permeate all of you. Our good friend Valescas talks about the individual things you can do. I'm all for them. That has to happen. People have to get out in the streets. But we veterans have a more powerful tool in that we are veterans and that we are against the war. And I understand that there are representatives here from Connecticut and Jersey and so on. And I would ask them to think in terms of calling a meeting in their communities, and again, and invite the Jewish war veterans, and invite the American Legion and the veterans of foreign wars to attend. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and the coalition has gotten permission from the chieftains or the organizers of tomorrow's Veterans Parade. Number one, Dave, and I forget who, is going to be part of the group that's going to lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. At the tomb of the unknown soldier. And the veterans are marching, and they're marching with the banners of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, Veterans for Peace, and they are wearing, now listen to this, listen to this. The veterans who are marching in tomorrow's Veterans Day Parade will be wearing sandwich signs which say, "This veteran is against the war in Iraq." Can you imagine that parade going up Fifth Avenue? Thank you all.